left, right and centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight our big focus is India's water crisis. Water levels in 91 major reservoirs nationwide are at their lowest in 10 years at just 29%. One study says India could run out of water by 2025. Another says that 40% of the population may not have drinking water by 2030. There's a severe drought in places like Marathwada, where people are getting water in some places once in 2 weeks. In Karnataka, farmers cannot irrigate their crops and face extreme distress. Are we, all of us, the government and the people, doing enough?
The humiliating, inhuman scramble for water. In the scorching summer of drought-hit Marathwada, it's a fight just for 2 buckets. These water tankers are the only source of water supply for this village. Now, as you can see today, once in every 4 days, they receive water here, and today is that day. And even though the water is dirty and frothy and it can be used only to wash clothes, the people here have queued up since early in the morning to get their share of it.
जो पानी आता है बहुत गंदा आता है मैडम।
अच्छा, तो इससे आप लोग क्या करते हो? इस पानी आप किस चीज के लिए?
फड़का लेना पड़ता है, उनको गालना पड़ता है, उबालना पड़ता है, बाद में पानी का इस्तेमाल करना पड़ता है ना।
Water used to wash vessels, then saved for livestock. 20 kilometers away in Shirapur, villagers claim the tanker visit once a fortnight.
टैंकर आधा 12 दिन में आती।
With dam water less than 2% in Beed district, the nearest source, Under Khel Dam, 20 kilometers away. The local BJP MLA himself at a loss.
अभी हमारे मतदार संघ में near about 175 tankers चल रहे हैं आज के तारीख को, और अभी अप्रैल में जाने वाला है, तो 200-250 तक जाएगा इस वर्ष।
In Beed district, with camera person Rajendra Dayalkar, Ankita Sinha for NDTV.
Srirangapatna Taluk of Mandya district. This is, or rather was, a paddy field. Normally at this time of year, it would be filled with young paddy with water in it. But this year, paddy was not planted because there was just not enough water, and water is not being released for irrigation at this point of time.
ಬಹಳ ಕಷ್ಟ ಇದೆ, ಭತ್ತ ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ವೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಬ್ಬು ಇದಂತದೆಲ್ಲ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಒಣಗೋಗಿದೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ನನ್ನ ಇತಿಹಾಸದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ನೋಡಿರೋ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಭೂಮಿ ಖಾಲಿ ಇರ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ.
The authorities are preserving the water in the KRS dam for drinking purposes and had warned the farmers not to plant sugarcane as irrigation water would not be released. Farmers asked, what was the alternative? Many went ahead and planted sugarcane and are selling the drying crop for what they can get. And an unusual sight, with no water for irrigation, the sinking of bore wells.
ಇದು 300 ಈಗ 200 ಆಗಿದೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಇದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ 300 ಹೊಡಿಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೀರಿಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ.
An acre of sugarcane that would yield 50 tons in a good year is yielding around 20 tons now. The blazing heat of early summer in Mandya district. With no water being released for irrigation, the crops are drying and dying in the field. A very unusual sight for this usually well-irrigated area. With Alphonse Raj, Maya Sharma in Mandya district of Karnataka for NDTV.
Well, joining us on the program tonight, Dinesh Gundu Rao, MLA and Cabinet Minister from Karnataka, also spokesperson of the Congress Party, Sambit Patra, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Devinder Sharma, well-known food policy analyst, joins us tonight from Chandigarh, and Nikhil Dey, social activist and co-convener of the NCPRI, joining us tonight from Bangalore. Nikhil, let me ask you first, because when you look at the figures, they really are very alarming. That India could run out of water by 2025 is actually a figure that was given by a minister, by the water minister in Parliament last year. You have another study that says 40% of India's population may not have access to drinking water by 2030. This is a huge crisis, and I just feel that we haven't focused enough on it.
Yeah, absolutely we haven't. I think we need to realize that it's not just a question of a drought this year or a drought last year or 2 years of drought consecutively. I think what we are talking about in terms of climate change, what we are talking about in terms of how we are running our economy, what we are talking about in terms of paying attention to the rural crisis that is developing, is something that we need to see in a longer term sense. We need to understand that we are seeing the equivalent of water wars emerging on the ground between villages, between states, between areas. We are seeing a crisis where people are unable to make their lifestyles continue at the levels where they were, leave alone advancing further. And if you look within the drought itself and you look within the country today, if we do not pay attention to not just the agricultural crisis but the rural crisis, which means the whole ecosystem, it includes water, it includes farmers, it includes agricultural labor, and it includes the distress that exists right across the board. I think what today we've had hailstorms destroying whatever little crops there were 2 years in a row. So these are shifts that are taking place that were not seen before. And simply saying climate crisis, climate change will not help. It will mean that we need to put into place things that by paying attention to this sector much more than we are. Our urban lifestyles will also get destroyed because it's demanding more and more water from rural areas, and the rural areas themselves don't have it.
Yes, and I think there are suggestions and reports that suggest that that urban crisis, and that's unfortunately what makes a lot of people wake up to a crisis, is when it hits urban India, and that crisis could hit this summer. And as soon as the next few months. Mr. Sharma, though, an interesting statistic I was reading was that, India gets about 2,600 billion cubic meters of rain. It actually needs 1,100 billion cubic meters to meet all requirements. The problem lies in the fact that we can't store most of this water, and so most of the rainwater, about more than 90% of it, ends up getting wasted. Do you believe that that needs to be the first solution that India needs to look at in the long term? Or obviously it would be a series of steps.
Well, for quite a number of years, this is an issue which has been raised. But unfortunately, the entire focus is just on building up canals, irrigation and big dams and so on. Unfortunately, this is the issue which you raised very well, I think, is the point that we need to really understand. That there is no shortage of water as far as the availability is concerned, as far as the rainfall that comes into India. So why is it that we have shortage of water? And in fact, we are heading towards a stage which I think we are moving towards a stage when we will shortly be having, or soon be having, what I feel or fear is called as water famines. And water famines can be more deadlier than even the famines that we all know about. Now, why I'm saying this is, if you look at Marathwada for the last 4 years, the continuous drought that has happened in a year, but it's happening in a state where it's very interesting. We have 1,845 big dams in Maharashtra. So how many more dams you still need to really provide the water requirement, or to address the water requirement? Then on the top of it, let's not forget that 70% of water that is consumed by agriculture actually is consumed by sugarcane alone. So for the rest of the states, only 30% water is left, the groundwater. So I think these anomalies have to be corrected. But more important, as you rightly mentioned, is that water harvesting has to be the key factor. I don't understand. In South India, there used to be 5 lakh ponds and tanks, and they have all disappeared. In a city like Bangalore, we used to have 1,000 ponds and tanks, and hardly there are 100 left now. Now, this is the way we are encroaching on these areas. This is the way we are destroying what was traditionally known in this area for water conservation. So I think we have to stress on water harvesting as the key factor. And if we start focusing on small is beautiful, so start building up small water harvesting structure, building up ponds and dams, I think we would have had a kind of a drought-proof situation in this country. But unfortunately, we have been somehow, the mindset is towards building canals and building dams.
Yeah, I read somewhere that if Delhi was to actually do rainwater harvesting the right way, we would probably be able to meet more than 80% of Delhi's water requirements with just rainwater harvesting alone. So that I think is a very important point to make. Sambit Patra, the worry though is the situation has come to a point, Devendra Sharma spoke of water famines, but we're already looking at the possibility of water riots. When you see the kind of pictures that are coming out of Marathwada today, It's actually heartbreaking. It's scary. You have Section 144 that's been clamped in Latur for the first time. You're preventing the assembly of people so that there isn't a riot. Sambit, it's a very, very serious situation. Do you think that we needed to have woken up to this 10, 20 years ago?
No, definitely. And in fact, I agree completely with what Mr. Sharma had right now said, that rather than having huge dams all across the state, we really need to focus on micro irrigation system. And I believe that's what the Maharashtra government is presently trying its best to do. That is the Jala Yukta Shivar scheme that it has started, where it has started desilting the already existing programs, where it is focusing on rain harvesting, where it is focusing on increasing the ground level water. And I have a research with me which says that in fact in 2014-15, when the survey was carried out, we found that 23,000 villages were affected by depletion of water. But with this Jal Yukta Shivar Abhiyan in 2 districts, Beed and Latur, we find that the number has gone down and now it's only 15,000 villages which are affected. A significant number of villages have come out of it. But much needs to be done. It is a 4 years inconsecutiveness that we have this drought. Second important thing as far as the government is concerned, since I'm a political spokesperson, I have to allay the fears of the people by putting in view as to what the government is doing. The government is concerned about 2 things. The immediate addressing of the problem, where the Chief Minister, Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, has said that the number 1 problem is water, which he would be looking into through water management. Tankers and trains have been pressed from whatever sources are left. 1,800 tankers are working. 15 crore rupees have been given to the Latur Municipal Corporation.
The tankers are not coming, with gaps of 2 weeks, Sambit. That's the worry. Those tankers, people are getting water after every 2 weeks and literally scrambling to save them in buckets and cups and whatever utensils they have. It's really a very sad situation.
Yes, definitely. I told you 4 years in consecutiveness of drought. The biggest issue is, even the dam has fallen to less than 6% of its capacity. If you have gone to the complete report, you would find that for the first time, this is the worst drought that Maharashtra is facing in the last 100 years. That is what the report says. So naturally, because of this Jal Yukta Shivar, whatever we could have saved, that is being utilized for equitable distribution of water to the people. The Maharashtra government has also reduced water supply to the industrial estates. Most important industrial projects have less water supply now, so that water can be given to the ones who are in need of water. Thirdly, the 4 important corners which the government has touched is the water management I talked about. Fodder, cattle sheds have been established where at least fodder can be given to the cattle. Employment to the farmers through Manrega, so that at least the rural spending is increased. And 4th important one is the loan waivers, the loan settlement, and in fact stay on recovery of agricultural loan. The central government has also sanctioned a total of 5,000 crore rupees assistance to the Maharashtra government.
I think many of those, and I think those are important steps, and many of them may actually take time to show results. And the question then, Mr. Rao, is that do governments, whether it's at the state level or at the center, also need to really encourage farmers to move away from crops like sugarcane? It's happening whether it's in Maharashtra or in other states, where these are crops that require water, much more water than say cotton or something else. But because that yields higher returns for them, there are strange procurement policies also that the government has. So farmers will look for these crops which they feel will get them higher returns, make them more money, but there's just no water from them and for them, and it's becoming a very dangerous cycle, Mr. Rao. All right, I think we've lost the line with Mr. Rao. Then Nikhil Dey, do you want to take that question that I was actually posing to the minister about the need to encourage other crops?
Absolutely. We have to encourage other crops. We have to encourage another form of development. On the one hand, the kind of agriculture that we have, we find right across the country water tables falling dramatically. Yes, we have had 2 years of continuous deficient rainfall, 12%, 14%. That is a crisis because we have rain-fed agriculture in many places. But what is there, our reserves are in our water tables, and those water tables are falling right across, all across the country, and in areas where you can't dig any deeper. We saw on your own program in places like Mandya how deep they are going, how much deeper will we go? And on the other hand, we have things like mining, which are destroying whatever kinds of water exists, whatever kinds of ways of water harvesting that exist. So we need to take a deep look at what development model we are going to pursue, what basic resources we have, and that's what climate change is, that we played around with this planet and its balances, and it is just now, right now, reaching a point of crisis, which those of us who are in urban India and open a tap don't realize, but those who are in rural India, whose lives and livelihood depend on it, who don't get drinking water, they are realizing, and that's something we have to understand. And I completely agree. We need on Narega, 7 out of the 8 states don't have money. They have deficit balances, 7 of the 8 drought affected states. So Mr. Sambit Patra says we are spending money on Narega. We are spending money on corporate bailouts, on their non-performing assets. If just half that money was spent on really making an effort, redoing our policies, but also putting money into the rural sector to do rainwater harvesting.
Sambit, on that point of money. Yeah.
Yes, I want to react to both the things. First, I would react on the BT cotton and the shift to the sugarcane. Remember, since Mr. Sharma is there, he can reflect more on it. When in 2006, the BT cotton was introduced, subsequently, initially there was a high yield of BT cotton. But since the last 4 or 5 years, what has happened is the yield of the BT cotton has taken a beating. It has considerably gone down, forcing the farmers to take on to sugarcane. And irony is that sugarcane consumes a lot of water. And that's the reason as to why this government is focusing on 2 things. Per drop, more crop, and secondly, as pointed out by the experts, that scientific methods of farming have to be started. So soil health card is an absolutely important thing. Using less of fertilizer and more of organic method of farming is very important for the health of the planet and for the health of agriculture.
As far as the money is concerned, their sugar factories as well, they're big water guzzlers as well. For instance, in Maharashtra, why not get the politicians to move away from that?
Surely, naturally, that I think Mr. Gundura would be able to answer more than me, because the 70 sugarcane factories that exist in and around Vidarbha and Marathwada mostly belongs to the parties which are affiliated to the Congress or the NCP. They have been ruling the state for so long. We have not introduced a single factory.
Let me ask Mr. Rao, because we have his line up, Sambita. Let me ask him on that. Mr. Rao, firstly, does the responsibility have to come from political leaders themselves? You have, and Sambit rightly said, many of these sugar factories do belong to leaders of the Congress and the NCP. These are big water guzzlers. Is there a big double standard here? Has the issue of water actually politically divided a state like Maharashtra, for instance, and even other states, because of the kind of politics that we've seen played over this issue, which is very unfortunate?
No, I would not say that it belongs to any one particular party. I think Sambit is making a political point. In Karnataka, many of the BJP leaders also have sugar factories here. But anyway, that's another issue. But the important issue is water is definitely becoming a very, very precious commodity. Now, whatever we may say, today in Karnataka, we are facing an unprecedented situation. In the last 40 years, we have not seen this kind of a drought. And government is trying to do its best in providing drinking water, finding sources of water. We are spending whatever money is available to us. We are requesting more money from Government of India. But yes, I think time has come, like what many other people said. The way we use water, the kind of agriculture that we do, the kind of cultivation that we do has to be looked at. Even for sugarcane growers in Karnataka, now we are coming out for the first time experiment in Karnataka where we are going to try and use drip irrigation for sugarcane growers. Unfortunately, what happens with irrigation is whenever we have irrigation, the way we use water tends to become very, very lax. We go in for paddy, we go in for sugarcane. So high water consumptive crops are being grown wherever irrigation is there. And when there is a drought, those crops get badly hit. So I think we need to look at from that angle also. We need to address it from how we use water, how we conserve water, even in cities, whether it's water harvesting, all that. But like I said, this is a situation we are facing an unprecedented crisis, and drinking water has become the #1 priority today. In Karnataka, we have lost our estimated loss of crop is 22,000 crores. That's the crop loss which Karnataka has had in the last 1 year. So you can imagine the loss to the economy. And at the same time, the amount of money that we're getting as relief is hardly anything. Government of India has given us 1,500 crores last year, this year for the crop loss, which we've already distributed to the farmers. And we're trying to provide borewells, drinking water. It has reached a
crisis point, and I just want to get a last word from Mr. Sharma on this. Then, Mr. Sharma, on this particular issue of crops and getting the government to actually incentivize the cultivation, we have to change the way we do agriculture, as Mr. Rao said as well?
But there are two things we must do, Nidhi. One, of course, is change the cropping pattern, because now we are moving from normal, kind of rices to hybrid rice. Now, hybrid rice requires about 1.5 times more water than what a high-yielding variety of rice would require. So we are actually promoting hybrid rice because in the garb of saying we need to increase productivity. Similarly, for sugarcane,
All right, well, Mr. Sharma, I'd like to just intervene there and apologize. We've lost your audio. I would try to get you back on that. And Nikhil, in fact, if you could take off from and give us that last word and sum it up for us in 30 seconds, what are the two things or the two most important things you think that the government can do immediately?
I think a lot of the crisis we are facing was driven by government policies 30, 40 years ago, where we were trying to say that we need these hybrid varieties, we need intensive water use, we need chemical fertilizers. We now have realized that our traditional methods are far more valuable. Using modern techniques, we need to put money there. We need to pay attention to the agricultural sector. We need to make sure that people have a kind of security in agriculture and pursue policies that we know will help. We know what is required to help, but we can't simply tell people change midstream without really making a huge effort. That effort today is being made for corporates and for urban development, but we need to do it for the rural sector and for the crisis that's facing the rural sector in water, in agriculture, and in their employment and livelihood.
All right, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us today, and I'm just going to go across to Mumbai where Mirza is joining us tonight, and we're very happy to have her on the program with us because she's been trying to do a lot and create a lot of awareness about water conservation, and found herself in the middle of an unnecessary row over that, at least on social media. But there's always some kind of a controversy, isn't there, on social media? So I'm going to skip that. But I'm going to come to what, you would have heard the discussion we just had. And when you hear, when did you, actually wake up to this problem yourself and realize that this is something that you felt very strongly about? What is it that shook you?
I've been working with Anandana, which is a foundation that has been working towards recharging groundwater in rural areas of the country now for the last 5 years. And it has been in my time with this foundation as one of their board members that I have become privy to the acute scarcity of water, and then of course my work with conservationists over the last few years and the understanding of the impact of climate change and how it affects most adversely the underprivileged, the backward, the people who live in rural areas. There are many things that have been witnessed in the recent past that cause alarm. One is the increased frequency of flood situations and drought. And because the planet is getting warmer, the intensity of these natural calamities is only going to increase. And what the Kids for Tigers very effectively understand is that when we ask them why save the tiger, their answer is because tigers feed forests and forests feed rivers, and rivers are the most essential resource of life.
So, Diya, when you talk to people about water conservation, for instance, in a city like Mumbai, and even when you ask people on Twitter to have a dry Holi, actually so did Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis. For some reason, he didn't get the kind of flack that you did. But you have a situation today where people in Mumbai are now waking up to this because swimming pools have been asked to shut down for a certain period of time. How do you think that people themselves are getting more aware of this problem, or is there still a lot of ignorance about it?
No, I don't believe that there is a lot of ignorance. I think people are becoming more and more aware of it because there is a lot of healthy discourse. Of course, governments are making a strong effort in making people better aware. I think what our Chief Minister did by appealing to people to play a dry Holi was a wonderful effort, and I applaud him in doing so. But I think what the question that the larger public is asking is, why just Holi? Why aren't we thinking of other measures to save water through the year? And I think that's a very important question that municipal bodies, governments, and even citizens, each of us has to answer. Let me share with you some of the things that we have initiated and followed effectively in the cooperative housing society that I live in. So one of the things that we noticed caused a lot of water wastage was overflowing of water tanks, because the water supply comes in at night, and we would know, I would wake up to the sound of overflowing water night after night, and it would really bother me. So what we've done is we've fixed automatic water gauge systems in both our groundwater tank and our overhead water tank. And since we've done that, we haven't wasted a single drop of water. The other thing that we've done is that we've ensured that members use nothing less than half a bucket of water to clean their vehicles. And people respect these decisions, because I think each of us are becoming aware of how critical it is for us to find everyday solutions and find everyday measures to curtail the wastage of water. The other thing that we've done,
last point, Diya, go ahead,
is that, yes, very, very important one, we lose a lot of water to leaking taps, leaking, just leakages in our buildings, in our homes. And what we've done is we've initiated a process where you can actually almost immediately address the issue. So there is a lot of water being saved in our society, in the cooperative housing society.
I think it's great that you've actually listed out, you've actually listed out practical things that people can do sitting in their homes in India's cities today. Absolutely. Because this is a problem that we think it's a drought.
Because as urban dwellers, we have access to this resource.
We can do it.
And we can do it.
Yeah. Well, Diya, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And this is a story we are continuing to focus on over the next few days. Our reporters are traveling to Marathwada and to those areas in Karnataka as well, where this problem is particularly acute right now. But do remember, as Diya has been pointing out, that this is a problem that's going to face our cities in a big way as well later this year. Diya, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you all again on Monday.